I have never seen police officers in a riot control mode, if you will, pointing weapons at people. I've never seen that before. Maybe it's been done, but it's not taught.
Tonight, former NYPD Commissioner Ray Kelly speaks out to RFL about policing and the cases surrounding the deaths of Michael Brown and Eric Garner. Why Kelly says police in Missouri should never have released surveillance video of the strong-arm robbery. Also this evening, Michael Brown laid to rest in Ferguson. Thousands came out to pay their last respects. Civil rights activists, politicians, and celebrities, people across the nation who never even knew him, showing up in force in a call for justice as Reverend Al Sharpton delivered a moving eulogy. Plus, it's been a busy week already for Sharpton. His march on Staten Island Saturday went forward without a hitch. Could his peaceful protest help lead to justice for the Brown and Garner families? Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman, in tonight for Richard French. Thanks so much for joining us. We begin tonight in Ferguson, Missouri, where 18-year-old Michael Brown has now been laid to rest. The shooting death of the black teen at the hands of a white police officer created a national uproar. Today, protesters honored his family's request to take a break from the protesting so that his family could mourn in peace. Marcy Gonzalez has our report.
With their hands symbolically raised, they filled this church in St. Louis by the thousands. Celebrities, activists, strangers, and family. A celebration of Michael Brown's life and a passionate focus on his death.
I know that the world is someday gonna know my name. He said, I'm gonna shake the world. And I promise you that he has.
The violence following the 18-year-old being gunned down by a white police officer more than 2 weeks ago now calmed, but the calls for action still reverberating today from the streets into this funeral.
He wants to be remembered as the one that made America deal with how we gonna police in the United States.
With the grand jury continuing the lengthy process of reviewing evidence in the case, supporters of Officer Darren Wilson spent the weekend urging patience.
Let's just take our time, wait to see the evidence, see what the grand jury has to say.
The tension and emotions on both sides of this case still simmering on this summer day.
We think that what happened to him was wrong.
As Michael Brown was laid to rest. And Brown's parents are calling for a day of peace, asking for the protests to pause just for today as they bury their son. Marcy Gonzalez, ABC News, St. Louis, Missouri.
Reverend Al Sharpton delivered the eulogy at Brown's funeral service today, and his message of hope and justice is one that many will remember. Let's listen to some of his speech, an extended cut now from earlier today.
That night, violence started. Next night, violence. We were here Tuesday. And we went in front of that old courthouse with Big Mike and with the mother. And they had to break their mourning to ask folks to stop looting and rioting. Can you imagine their heart broken, their son taken, discarded and marginalized, and they have to stop mourning to get you to control your anger like you more angry than they are. Like you don't understand that Michael Brown does not want to be remembered for a riot. He wants to be remembered as the one that made America deal with how we gonna police in the United States. This is not about you.
Not at all.
This is about justice. This is about fairness. And America is going to have to come to terms with there's something wrong. That we have money to give military equipment to police forces, but we don't have money for training and money for public education and money to train our children. How do you think we look when the world can see you can't come up with a police report, but you can find a video you think we look? When young people march non-violently, asking for the land of the free and the home of the brave to hear their cry, and you put snipers on the roof and pointed guns at them, how do we look? In 3 weeks, we saw Marlon Pinnock, a woman in Los Angeles, laid out on the freeway, Congresswoman Maxine Waters. A California highway patrolman hit her 15 times on video with no weapon in her hand, nothing, no threat to her. Right after that, a man, they said that he had Lucy cigarettes, and they put an illegal chokehold on him. Man videoed it 11 times. He said, I couldn't breathe. And the man, a policeman, wouldn't let him go. Later that week, we see Michael laying on the ground. America, it's time to deal with policing. We are not the haters, we're the healers. What does it require of us? We can't have a fit. We got to have a movement. A fit, you get mad and run out for a couple of nights. A movement means we got to be here for the long haul and turn our chants into change. Our demonstration in the legislation, we have got to stay on this so we can stop this. We got to be straight up in our community too. We had to be outraged at a 9-year-old girl killed in Chicago. We had to be outraged by our disrespect for each other, our disregard for each other, our killing and shooting and running around gun-toting each other, so that they're justifying trying to come at us because some of us act like the definition of blackness is how low you could go. Wow. Blackness has never been about being a gangster or a thug. Blackness was no matter how low we was pushed down, we rose up anyhow. We never surrendered. We never gave up. And now we get to the 21st century. We get to where we got some positions of power. And you decide it ain't black no more to be successful. Now you want to be a nigga and call your woman a hoe. You've lost where you come from. We got to clean up our community so we can clean up the United States of America.
And for reaction now, I want to bring in my colleague, political journalist and author Dominic Carter. And Dominic, I know that you weren't able to watch the funeral today. You've been working on other things, the interview with Ray Kelly. What was your reaction to the speech from Sharpton today?
That's regular Al Sharpton, nothing special. That's the way he is every time he speaks before his community. You know, Mr. Sharpton is a polarizing figure, okay? Some people love him, some people hate him. Let's put Sharpton aside for a moment. The points that he just made, I'm mesmerized by the fact that a strong supporter of the police, former police commissioner Ray Kelly, made exactly the same points, Andrew, in an interview that we're going to be going to in just a little bit. One, Mr. Kelly criticizes the police for Michael Brown's body being on the street too long. Two, he says the police, these are Ray Kelly's words, tried to dirty up Michael Brown by releasing that video. He says it was a huge mistake. And three, he says he has never seen rifles used at a protest. And so, you know, those are all points that Mr. Sharpton just made. Ray Kelly is about to tell us exactly the same thing. We're looking at this video here a very disturbing video, but Kelly says that it should have never been released. The last point I want to make, the black-on-black crime. Reverend Sharpton is saying something that many of us have been saying for a very, very long time. It's time to stop the nonsense. We can talk about racism, and it's reached the point where in some circles it has become an excuse. We can talk about anything you want to talk about, but why are kids of color dying on the streets of Chicago, Detroit, and New York City? Why is that? Why is it's one black man in many instances doing it to another black man? And so Reverend Sharpton hit on many themes that he normally does when he speaks before communities of color.
And it was definitely the most motivating portion of the funeral address today, or the funeral procession for Michael Brown. Dominic, thank you. We'll get back to you in just a second. We're going to take a quick break, but up next.
It's happened in a small town. And understandably, in some ways, they simply were not prepared for it. There are many things that I know if they could, they'd do over.
As Dominic told you, former NYPD Commissioner Ray Kelly speaks to Dominic about local policing amid the Eric Garner death investigation, as well as the handling of the death of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. Why Kelly says cops in Missouri should never have released the video of that convenience store robbery. We're also going to head to Staten Island, where thousands took to the streets over the weekend, calling for arrests in both cases.